Welcome to another episode of CYC Youth Chat. Today we'll be discussing the topic of purity. Tonight we've got four very talented youth of the church. We've got Chrissy, Gabriella, Andrew and Isaac.
Hi.
So I think it's really important that we've got youth tonight to discuss the topic of purity, because you guys are the ones that are living in the 21st century and having to deal with the many aspects that are associated with purity. So it's tough. So what are we thinking, guys? What comes to mind when we're thinking of purity?
I guess purity, some of us always think purity is about sexual problems, but I think we need to discuss, the other aspects of purity. I don't know if you agree.
So what are the other aspects of purity? Because for me, when I hear purity, straight away, especially living in this society, everything's relating to sexuality.
I think I think back to school, and I was always teased that I never kissed a boy or whatever, and I was always different because of that, and I was teased, and I always used to feel like I'm different. I think at that point in my life I was only doing it because I knew it was a rule that I couldn't break, but now I understand how valuable that is in Christ's eyes, that something so simple means a lot to him, that I love that, and I'm so grateful that I have those rules.
But why are you so grateful? Why, like you're saying that you first saw that as a rule. That was the only reason why you sort of went with it. But why do you think that you're so grateful that you haven't kissed a boy till now?
Because I think it's important for God to know that you are sacrificing things that are worldly and are keeping what he has created for marriage. Or I know that we're just talking about it in terms of physical issues now, but that's a massive issue for us. And it's a massive issue for our youth because we're always struggling with it and always struggling with the ideas of purity. I know Pope Shenouda said that for us, martyrdom, obviously people in Egypt are being persecuted, but for us in Western society and modern society, our martyrdom is maintaining our purity. It's really hard. Even what we see, what we hear, everything around us is impure.
I love that Pope Shenouda says that, because if we think, back when there was persecution and when we have martyrdom by blood, if we were to throw ourselves back then, it would be that would be the hardest thing, that they're actually standing in the face of these emperors saying, I'm Christian, knowing that they're going to be killed. So he's actually putting that as the same level of us having to keep pure in the 21st century, and I couldn't agree more. We can't hide from it. It's on especially with technological advancements, it's on our phones, it's on TV, it's commercials. I remember, let's just look at the last 20 years. When I was growing up, what was considered PG and M now is nothing. It's on TV everywhere. How are we coping with this, realistically? Going to church to a mass every Sunday can't be it.
I think it's one of the most difficult things, because the saying that you are what you are around is so true. When you watch all these TV shows of violence and swearing and all this, you become that, and it becomes the norm, and you become more accepting of that. And I think when you become more accepting of that, it becomes your way of life. So when you're, and as we are continually surrounded by that, it becomes so much more normal and so much more difficult to maintain.
So are you saying that we should just completely become outcasts of our society? Because that's not a way we can live. It's everywhere. That can't be the solution. I don't know.
I think it's okay to separate your things from things that you know are gonna impact you negatively. It's okay to not watch that movie that's R because there's sexual references or swearing or violence. It's okay to take yourself away from that and to instead put yourself in a community that is the same, has the same values as you. I know from experience it's very difficult to have the values that you do and be integrated into a community that doesn't have the same values. It's okay to separate yourself from things like that, but know what you're grounded in.
Yeah, but if you take yourself away from that, you still have thoughts attacking you. Say if you successfully, remove yourself from the environment, you're still attacked by thoughts from the past. Yeah. So the question is for me as a youth, will I ever be pure? Even if I remove myself, will I still be pure? Will I still be attacked by thoughts? I don't know.
Yeah. So I think maybe the point is that we need to be working on ourselves all the time. I don't know how. I think we need to discuss how to make sure that we're a strong person. So no matter where we are, no matter what environment we're in, because work environment now, I mean, the norm is, you know, it's unbelievable work environments now. Everyone, you know, hooking up with everyone and sort of things like that. I mean, it's everywhere. Work, school, technology, TV, radios, etc. I think what you're saying is that we really should be, the core is us. But I think for me, and what I found speaking to young girls, especially, we don't understand why. We don't understand why we actually do this. If we actually understood why, you know, why we need to keep ourselves pure and the very many facets of that purity, maybe that's what's going to help us. I mean, I never understood why I couldn't have, all my friends had boyfriends. Why couldn't I have a boyfriend? What was the big deal? What was the issue? So what's so important about purity? Why is it so important that we need to take care of it? I mean, sex before marriage now is considered an everyday norm. If you abstain from that before marriage, let me tell you, you are definitely the minority. You're outcast. I mean, I saw that at university. So why is it so important? Like, I don't know, boys, girls, what are we thinking?
I don't know. I think that I once heard in a sermon once that everything you have is a gift from God. Your speech, your sexuality, everything is a gift from God. But when it's used outside of His intentions, that's when it becomes harmful, and it assists you in losing your purity. Like, for example, sex. God, it's a gift, but when it's used outside of marriage, it becomes harmful, it becomes disease-causing, it becomes so many emotional problems, and it becomes but when it's used for His intentions within marriage, it's something blessed and sacred, and it's the union between man and woman. For example, speech as well. God gave us speech for a reason. It's a gift. But when we're using it to, when we're swearing and using it to attack others, it becomes something so harmful to other people and to ourselves and to our own purity.
I think maybe self-control is definitely a factor when it comes to purity. But I don't even think self-control is a factor for purity. I think self-control is a massive tenet of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Everything we do has some kind of aspect of self-control. Fasting is all about self-control. So maintaining our purity, there's a huge self-control issue. So why? Why are we abstaining? Why are we abstaining before marriage? I mean, if you find that right person, why? I mean, it says in the Bible, I mean, numerous times, there are many verses, but what's the importance of having one partner? I mean, I know there's a lot more liberal churches at the moment that are saying, you know, before you get married, it's okay to live with your partner for a while and try because, hey, you know, there's no separation before, so make sure you're 100% sure, you know, this try before you buy, you know, phrase that's thrown out there. So why do we think not?
I think by being pure, we cleanse our mind, and when we cleanse our mind, we can see the beauty in others. We can see the righteousness in others, and upon seeing the righteousness and beauty in others, we can incorporate that to become a better person and to connect with Christ more. I just think that's, you know, by being pure, we can see and, you know, allow ourselves to see better things and notice better things and observe better things and incorporate that better.
I think with that, definitely, like, God is in the action. So, like, for example, sex before marriage, God is not in that action. But I've heard...
But why?
Because it's not blessed by God. I've heard that after marriage, like, there was a talk by a priest that he said, you know, you can pray while having intercourse. Like, that's how holy it is, because that's what it was created for. And if you take it outside of that context, it's completely distorted. It means nothing. It's just a physical action. Like,
and God hasn't created that union yet. When you're married, that's when they have combined. But before that, there's nothing. So
it's like an analogy I heard. Like, if you're a soldier in the army and you kill people during the war, and you kill many people, you're a hero, you know. But if you out of army, you're walking on the street and you kill one person, you know, you'll go to jail. So I think it's a similar thing.
I love what you just said, that, you know, God has created that union, but everything before that is not created by God. It's not for God. I think maybe the purpose for sex within marriage is so different to the purpose of sex outside of marriage. And do you know what? we were talking in another episode about the role of women. This is, I think, another form of protecting the woman. You know, it's a form of protection. You know, it maybe protects us from men actually using women, you know, for their own physical gratification, whereas you actually have to show commitment to this woman. You have to marry her. And in our church, that's a lifelong commitment, to be able to completely have every part of her. So maybe it's a church's way also, 100%, or, you know, Jesus's insight in another form of protection for women. I don't know, what do you guys think? Or is it too far-fetched?
Yeah. I maybe it was protection, but maybe it's inherently like just for marriage. It's just meant for God. It's even like what about the girl, like protecting the girl from the men? I think like both men and women struggle with impurity and struggle with the desire for sex before marriage. Like it's a common thing. So,
I sort of agree with both. I don't know where I lie exactly, but I've heard so many stories where the girl is being used for that, but only for that reason, and you become an emotional wreck, and then it just becomes the normal thing. I think, but I think that's just a plus side of the fact that you become one after marriage. I don't think it was part of the church's intentions.
Yeah. Well, I know that, you know, a lot earlier in the church's history, we have issues regarding we have issues regarding the actual whole aspect of sex itself. You know, women were told that this was just a physical act, but, you know, now in the church, it's very much emphasized that marriage is a sacrament, and this sexual union is actually a gift from God. It's something that's really blessed, and when you just throw it around before marriage, you're disrespecting it. You can never get that back, female and men. So just finishing off before we go to an ad break, we're talking about the first aspect of purity, and that's, I think we were talking a lot about sexual behaviour and this idea of sex before marriage. I think when we come back, maybe we'll talk about the different aspects of purity, maybe self-control, sacrifice, and looking at maybe some big biblical verses to give us a bit of guidance on the issue of purity. So we'll see you guys after the break. Welcome back to CYC Youth Chat. Today we've been discussing the topic of purity. So, boys, what do you think are maybe some of the physical or actual ways that purity can be achieved?
Well, I think most definitely fleeing. We saw in the Bible how Joseph fled from Potiphar's wife. To avoid that sin, he just ran away from it all. And I think that's...
But do you really think that's realistic, living in the 21st century, that you got to run away? I mean, you'd be running away from everything, work, school, life. I mean, do we really think that the answer is to run away?
Well, I think for the most part, running away is the first step, at least. I don't think, for me personally, I don't think I'm spiritually there to confront it. Because confrontation, if you're not spiritually at that level, it will lead to sin, because sin, opportunity plus temptation equals sin. If you allow the opportunity to arise, and you're always going to get tempted, then you're just going to lead into sin. If you get away from the opportunity, if you flee from the opportunity, shun the opportunity, then you've got no way of entering into sin.
But I know, like how you were saying before, how it's not really realistic in our society, but I think to a certain extent it can be. So in our own personal lives, obviously at work and school, we can't exactly run away from that, like just live as an ascetic in the desert.
I mean, I think that's why we're not monks, we're not nuns, so...
Yeah, I guess, but I think to a certain extent, like I remember our Sunday school teacher once gave us a little project, said, I just don't want you to listen to music for 1 week. Just the radio, anything, just don't. If you want to listen to something, listen to a hymn. And I'm like, oh, okay, like what difference is that going to make? But at the end of the week, when we actually started listening to music again, I was like, what dirty stuff is this? I couldn't believe that I had been listening to that before. And because I had just removed that from my life for 1 week, I had realised that, like, how much it was influencing my mind. But I'm not saying that, like, you can't watch TV, you can't listen to radio or anything. But I think know where you yourself are tempted and where you yourself, where your lines are, And I think you have to draw those lines for yourself, because my lines will be different to her lines. She may, for example, be much less tempted at something that I am, and that's my own.
I agree with what you're saying, because like it's your choice to remove yourself from temptation. I mean, you're saying like you stopped listening to music for a week. Like it's your choice. Like, yeah, we have computers at home, but it's our choice. Maybe we can install like a net nanny program where we can avoid certain websites, or even TV, we can choose to change the channel. But you can argue the fact that maybe when you're walking on the street, you see inappropriate billboards or something. Like, you can't help that, you know? Like, we're in the 21st century. I remember Pope Shenouda said once, you can't stop birds from flying around the tree, but you can stop them from nesting. So I guess when we see something like that, as Isaac said, try to flee as much as we can.
I mean, I love that. I mean, we can stop it from, we might see it, but we can somehow put up mechanisms where we don't let it infiltrate our lives. I know for myself, working in a government school, some of the stuff that is allowed in today's society, you know, sex education is taught now in primary school. And when I say sex education, I'm talking primary school students are taught different methods of contraception. I mean, it's everywhere. And do we stand up and say, you know what, I don't believe this, I don't agree with this, or do we just don't say anything, sit at the back of the room and just don't participate? I mean, for me, that's a hard choice. You know, at your place of work, is there a time or place where you actually stand up and you say, hey, excuse me, this is not what I believe in, and you take it as an opportunity to say your beliefs, or do we actually just stand back, sit in the corner and just not participate?
It's really tricky.
Yeah, I don't know. For me personally, I would not have the strength to get up and say, no, this is what I believe. But I had no problem at school whatsoever when someone came and addressed me about it, when they knew that I was different, or whatever terminology you use there. But I think that is a really difficult line to draw, because some people would see that as kind of pushing that down their throat. I know if I had done that at my school, they would have attacked me to the death. But is that a good thing? I don't know.
You know, you raised a really good point. You say, you know, I don't want to push it down their throat. But why are we so scared? Why are we so scared to push it down our throat? Because as far as I'm concerned, the atheist agenda in our society today in Australia is being pushed down my throat. I mean, why are we so scared to say it? Maybe if more of us actually stood and said, I mean, we can do it respectfully, we don't have to, you know, be forceful. I mean, we can be assertive, but we don't have to throw it on them. But why are we so scared? I mean, this extreme political correctness, that's what I think it is, has taunted us. But really, I think it's the atheist agenda is being pushed down our throats.
But really, like for me personally, what is the point of, for me, purity is between me and God. Like, I don't really, people are going to live their different lives. People are going to, if they're teaching,
but don't you think that you have a role to play? Your purity is not just, I mean, purity is not just your purity, but it's the purity of others. For example, I remember once we were at a Coptic camp, and one priest told all the girls, you know, got us in trouble because we were perhaps wearing clothes that weren't covering, you know, there were like cut sleeves and etc. And he said, purity is not just your purity, but you have a responsibility for the purity of others. So I think that absolutely purity is not just our own purity. That's what I think.
But I feel like that's ways that we can manage. Like, for example, wearing clothes, if it's something that little, contributing to the purity of others, why not go to that step? But how is standing up in a school going to affect the purity of others? They're just...
Because we don't know, but maybe, I mean, I know what happened in the story. I actually did say, actually during the segment, the presenter was discussing the various forms of contraception, and I actually, one of the forms she said was the morning after pill. And I actually put my hand up and I said, do you realise that's actually an abortive method? And she said, oh, no, she has the right to do that, and even if it is an abortive method, etc. And I said, you forgot one form of contraception you didn't mention. And she said, what's that? And I said, abstinence. Abstinence is a form of contraception. And it was 35 girls in the class. They were in year 11, actually, because I'm high school. And after she was, I said to her, and I talked about, I said, for me, abstinence has led me to be pure, has led me to avoid any kind of illnesses, because she was talking about STIs, etc. It's made sure that I haven't had to worry about peer pressure from boys, etc. And do you know how many girls after that segment came up to me and said, "Miss, I'm so glad you said that." Wow. Because I don't want to tell you how many girls, and I don't work in a Coptic school, I work in a public school. So we don't know. And I've stayed in, how many, these are girls that said to me, "You know what, Miss, I don't want it. My mum at home, she doesn't talk to me about this stuff. It's all sex education and what should I avoid?" I actually believe girls and boys, we don't want to harm our bodies. And not being pure, I think, is the equivalent of harming your body. I don't know.
I agree. Obviously, I think we shy away from confronting anybody because really what everybody else has to prove is it's very strong. Everybody outside the church or who doesn't believe in purity in any kind of way, in any kind of stream, it's really hard to argue against that. It's really hard to say what you believe in. But it shows how much of an impact you obviously had. And I think if we first ourselves try and understand the impact and the importance of purity, then we might be able to tell other people.
So do we think there's different levels of purity?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd believe so. I definitely believe that there are different levels of purity, because, like you said, purity is not just your own, but others as well. And only when you master your purity can you start, I believe. So I do believe there are certain levels.
What do you mean by when you master your impurity, then you can start?
Well, when you believe that you're at a level where your purity is, you're pure. I'll tell you, your mind is cleansed. What you're looking at is, the righteousness, because righteousness does see righteousness in others.
A spiritual purity,
yeah,
as opposed to a physical purity.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's hard to achieve. I mean, look at the Mass, for example. We pray the Mass. Abuna says before Holy Communion, the holies are for the holy people. And what do we respond? We say, one is the Holy Father, one is the Holy Son, one is the Holy Spirit. So, in a way, we're saying we can never be pure. So, how are you meant to become pure?
I think you raise a good point, but I don't think anyone's ever going to reach perfection of purity, because our spiritual life is a journey.
Yeah.
And I remember Saint Bishoy, he used to have his hair tied, because every time he got tired, he would, his head would fall and he would wake him up. That's a type of spiritual purity. He wanted to make sure that he maintained that level of prayer and making sure. So that's different levels.
So you're saying struggle?
It's a struggle. It's a journey. We're never going to be perfect. You think that once a couple. I'm married. Once you're married, that's it. That physical purity, tick my boxes. Absolutely not. It's an everyday struggle. Your husband has to go to work, and you have to go to work, and there's different kinds of struggles of purity that you have. Abstaining during fasts and certain aspects like that. So I think purity is a struggle and it's a journey. And there's different levels, that spiritual purity, the physical purity. So I think it's an ongoing thing. We're never going to be perfect because we're not God. We're just of God. So I don't know.
It reminds me of a story. There was once this monk. He was struggling with a specific thoughts. So he kept going to his father in confession. He kept telling him about these thoughts. So he kept fighting over the years, and then the story says that the devil appeared to him, and he said, "Look, from this point on, I'm not going to battle you with these thoughts anymore. You know why? Because of your struggle. I don't want you to have a heavenly crown for your struggle." So the devil was pretty much saying to him, because of your struggle, you're going to have a heavenly crown.
Wow. So, that's amazing. So, from that we learn basically that this idea that even if you fall, even if you stumble, if you're picking yourself back up, and the mere intention of wanting to be better is enough in the eyes of the Lord. Because, I mean, let's be realistic. We fall and we stumble, and we're always going to fall and we're always going to stumble. But if our intention is to always want to seek purity, then I think that's enough in the eyes of the Lord.
But I think we can discuss this all we like, but we're not ever addressing the problems that are happening right now. Like, I even heard Nabuna say that a kid as young as year 3 said he had access to pornography. Like, how are we in the church supposed to address that? Because we don't want to drill, okay, it's wrong, that's it. And we have to be able to explain to them in a way that they can understand that why that's something I always struggled with growing up. I never knew why. With anything. And I think that really is an important thing that we should actually start taking to our...
Well, I think, Gabriella, you raised a really good point, and I think we'll leave that thought with our viewers. Thank you for sharing with us another episode of CYC Youth Chat.